Okay, Heather, let's kick off. Let's get started. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Today, we're excited to share the Lexer Form Builder with everybody. So on today's webinar, we're going to cover a few topics. We're going to spend the first half of the time going over the opportunity that Lexer Forms and zero-party data gives our clients. We're going to cover some use cases and best practice and a recap of what zero-party data is. And then we'll actually get into a demo of the form builder itself, showing you how to build several different forms, the different features in the form builder, and also show how that data then flows into the Lexer CDP. And then we'll finish off with a touch on the roadmap. So what's coming next for form builder, how clients can actually get access to form builder and what the implementation looks like. And then we'll finish on some resources. So what we have available for you to learn more about forms, zero-party data, and best practices. Any questions along the way, please just use the Q&A feature within Zoom, and then we'll capture those questions and then answer them as they come up. So please shout out. So on the call today, you've got myself. So my name's Guy. I look after product marketing here at Lexer. I'm based in Los Angeles, originally from Sydney. And also on the call, you've got Heather, who's our VP of Customer Success. A lot of you may have met Heather before, and she's going to help intro the first half of the session for us today.
Great. So first, let's talk a bit about the opportunity. So really, I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about zero-party data and how zero is the new hero when it comes to truly knowing your customers. And so, one thing I think that's important to look at is how is zero-party data different from other data? And so this is information that is shared by the customer or prospect directly to you, as opposed to maybe first-party data captured through transactions. And this is usually coming through surveys, quizzes, or maybe another feedback channel. And this is becoming more and more important in terms of collecting zero-party data because there's just a lot more challenges these days in targeting than there have been in the past. So things like the iOS privacy changes, cookies on their way out eventually someday, and opt-outs are becoming more and more common. But really the good news is that according to a recent Accenture Pulse survey on personalization, 83% of customers said they are willing to share their data with brands to enable a more personalized experience. So there really is an opportunity to ask customers the questions that will get them that experience. And so if we start to look at why other tools fall short, one of the big challenges, first off, is just no pre-survey insight. And so survey tools aren't really going to give you any insights or existing insights into your customers that will help you inform what are the best questions that you need to ask. So it doesn't really give you a starting point. It also doesn't allow you to create and target specific customer segments necessarily with specific surveys. And a lot of times it's just like a one-size-fits-all spray and pray approach that really isn't going to be super relevant to your customers. And then on the other side, there's really limited post-survey analysis. So answers will be anonymous or an aggregate. They're not really tied to individuals, or they're captured in isolation and not necessarily integrated into your customer database. So you can't really look at it alongside their full history for any real context. And that's going to impact the business, your decision making, if you're unable to really look at the data in a more holistic way and it's all siloed. And so that siloed activation, it's not going to be tied to your activation tools. You're not going to be able to leverage it in the ways as quickly as possible with something that's already living in your CDP or that can be used for one-to-one personalization. You'll basically have some insights and generalizations that you can use, but it won't be that one-to-one type of targeting. And, it can be a really manual process. There's no automated triggers. That's going to be increased time and effort. And it's really going to inhibit your ability to be agile and your effectiveness and being able to just speed to action. So if we go on to the next slide,
That should
this
be
is really
that should be
where
manual, not Manuel. He's not part of the form
uh,
builder. I'll update that later.
Manuel. uh, Maybe he's in there. But really when we look at what's the key benefit is you want to be able to turn those surveys into actionable insights to deliver personalization. And so with Lexer Forms, it's really easy to be able to do that because first off, you can send a form to target specific customers. So you can ask them the right questions every time. You'll get your responses, obviously, from real individuals. And you'll be able to look at their answers alongside their full history. And so that you can really understand that full 360 picture of the customer because you'll know what types of products they buy, other information about them, in addition to their answers. And it will allow you to capture, unify, and enrich all of the data into one tool. And then that way you'll be able to quickly act on those insights in both your paid and owned channels. So you'll be able to quickly push out segments to paid social or use them in email. And it's going to save you a lot of time and money. And so if we start to move into the next section where we just start to talk about the use cases and best practices. And so if we start to dig into the next area, one of the really big benefits that we see customer-centric brands, using these touch points, they're really trying to always enrich and learn. And so, customer profile enrichment, you can fill in the gaps. So it's a great way, if there are any holes in your understanding of your customer, you can leverage forms to help fill in those gaps. Obviously, knowing customer preference is going to be able to provide you a lot of insights about them, as well as personalize and tailor their experience. A new customer welcome survey is a great way from the first day one in terms of being able to segment them. So understanding when is their birthday, what are they interested in, are they shopping for themselves or someone else? It gives you a lot of information about their purchase intent potentially. And then also post-purchase feedback, as well as things like NPS, can really help understand satisfaction and help you monitor that over time to hopefully get ahead of any potential issues. Competition and sweepstakes entries is a great way to help acquire new customers. And then also customer ID verification. So you've got that added security. And then also everyone's favorite topic, GDPR and CCPA. So it helps with that right to be removed compliance. So making sure that we cover off on all those areas. And so now as we move into thinking about every stage of the customer journey, you can leverage forms to help you at each of these stages. So there's lead gen, where we can help you with competition entries, newsletter signups, in-store signups, acquiring new customers and helping to understand them better with welcome surveys, understanding preferences and fit, helping to grow that relationship. So again, that idea around post-purchase feedback, NPS feedback, for all of our apparel retailers out there, returns are always a big question, and helping to understand the why behind returns can be a really important data point for you to have. And then also retention. So using surveys to reach out to lapsed customers, or also re-engage them through competitions. There's a lot of different ways that you can, continue to entertain and react and engage with your customers. And so if we think about some of the kind of must-have forms for retailers, we have a blog post about this and that is linked here, but a lot of those are the ones that we were just talking through about competitions, newsletter, lots of welcome surveys, right to be removed. And so I would encourage everyone to take a look at this article to really understand all these different kind of must-have forms for retailers. And then obviously, all of us on the success team are more than happy to help you get going with any of these.
Yeah.
And then
something I'll add there as well, Heather, that's important. Even if, at different stages of the customer journey, you can create forms that then are used at different stages. So something like a competition entry or a sweepstake, you can use that to acquire new customers into your database. But then you can also use it to re-engage lapsed customers who may not be, they may have opted out of email.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, then let's target
Mhm.
them paid social or an SMS or other
Mhm.
channels with a competition entry to get them re-engaged.
Mhm.
So the forms you create can be used at multiple touch points along the journey, which I think is really important.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's a great point about the addressability. So making sure that if you can't reach out to someone in email, maybe they've been lapsed and they're not opening the emails any longer, going after them in paid social can be a great opportunity. And then we also have a best practice guide in our learn.lexer.io knowledge database. And so, some high level points here is really thinking about starting with a clear goal. What's the length and the right number of questions? I know I've worked with quite a few of our clients where there's a desire to learn everything about a customer, and it can get long really quickly, which will quickly reduce someone's interest in completing it potentially, or you will have to bribe them quite significantly. So thinking about the length and the number of questions that you really need, the data quality that's going to come out, so not asking lots of open-ended questions, thinking about those, writing the questions to make sure that you're getting at what you need to, that whole user experience. Again, the incentive. So, what do you need to do to really help encourage someone to participate? And then sharing and understanding how to get those forms, sweepstakes, and surveys out into your audience and prospects, customers. So that guide is also in our Learn database, so that you can help learn additional things about these as well. So now I think we're ready for the good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, so on the call today, I'm going to demo 3 good examples of sort of common forms, and these touch on the points that Heather mentioned. But we'll start off with a lead gen acquisition demo of an example form. We'll look at like a customer survey and also a post-purchase feedback, like including NPS as well. So these are kind of 3 common forms that every retailer should be using, and we'll try to demonstrate all the different features in each of these forms. So then we've got a good breadth of demo. Like I said, any other questions along the way, please just reach out, use the QA feature, and we can answer questions as we go. All right, so let me just share my screen. Bear with me. To reshare my screen. Okay, how's that? You can see the desktop, Heather?
Yep, sure can. Looks great.
So let's just close for tabs. All right, so I'm in Lexer now. I'm in our demo account, Fitness Co. And so when you have access to forms, you can launch forms from 2 places. You can launch it from the Manage menu, which is from the top bar here. You can also from the Manage section down here. So open up Manage. Then you can see forms. Forms will be added on the left-hand side here in the submenu. And then this takes you to your Form Builder list. So we've already got some forms existing here on the left, but the first time you log in here, you'll have a call to action button over here on the left to say create new form, and that's where you can get started. So let's start off with the lead gen capture example. And I've already pre-built this form, so we can start look at the end result first and then work backwards from there. So it's lead gen capture entry form. Once it's opened up, you can see the section in the middle here, which gives you all the details around the blocks that you can add to the form. So this is where you add your content. On the right here, you'll see all the sort of a summary of the blocks that have been added and the different pages, the pagination. You then have two tabs here. The build is the view we're in now. So that's adding and editing the questions. And then the design tab allows you to then preview the form, but also change the fonts, the colors, the alignment, the background images, all that good stuff. We've also got like a few options along the top here. So settings, this will allow you to change the name of the form that exists within the menu on the left. So that's like an internal name. You'll see some options here for privacy policy. So this adds links to the bottom of your form. So you can link off to terms and conditions or privacy policy and keep legal team happy. Permissions, so these are the groups within your hub that have access to this form. So in most cases, it'll be everybody, but for some of our larger clients, they like to break down access by teams. And then metadata, so this is the sort of the description of the data when the form's shared or opened up in browser windows. This is what appears in the title and the page. And you could also add some icons and preview images too. So when you share, there's a thumbnail that it goes along with the form, and you can just easily upload JPEGs or PNGs here. So let's just start with if I preview this. So this is the form I ended up with, and this is an example of a lead gen capture form. So this is a competition or a sweepstake, and this is great for acquiring new records into your database. And so a lot of clients will send this out via like a paid social campaign. So you want to target lookalikes of your best customers and then send that out on paid social on Facebook or Instagram, or TikTok, looking at lookalikes of your best customers to get them to enter the competition and then pull them into your database. And hopefully they become your new high value customers. And we've kept this really simple for a number of reasons. We want to make we want to make it easy for them to sign up and quick and easy. But at the same time, we want to capture enough information about them so then we can personalize to them from day one and start to put them into some segments. So the first comms they get from you are super relevant and, sets them off on the right foot. So what's your email? So we're going to capture their email address because that's what we're going to use as the linkage. You can see that's mandatory. It's got the red star next to it. First name. So the reason we're capturing first name is then we can start to personalize to them from day one. Also, Lexer has our built-in inferred gender attribute. So what that allows us to do is using a customer's first name, infer their gender. And we can usually do that for about 75% of customers based on their first name. So, people like John and Mark and Larry, we can infer as male, Jessica, Heather, females. There's some in between, like sometimes like Alex and Sam, which we can skip for now. But that just allows you then to start to personalize to them really easily on day one and provide, some creative or products that are relevant for them. And then because we're a fitness brand, we're going to ask what fitness brand what fitness workout you're interested in. And so you can simply just click one of these. And that, again, allows us to put them into a category, start to put them into a persona segment as well, and start to personalize to them from day one. As we learn more about them, they can be added to more personas as well. And then one last thing is just to keep our legal friends happy. Some brands require, you want to agree to the terms and conditions and opt in to receive marketing messaging. So we've got a really simple tick box down here that allows us to do that. And so if I just fill out this form really quickly and hit submit, you can see the privacy policy link is down here as well. And that is then entered into the CDP. We've got a good luck message. So it's a really simple example of a lead gen. Here's how it actually comes together in the form builder. So we start off with a title. So win a fitness bundle worth over $1,000. It's just a text box, and you can add a description underneath. We've then got our email block. That's mandatory for now because we need email to capture, the linkage to identify this person. So you can see that's kind of grayed out and required. Sometimes it's good best practice to add like a description, like winners will be notified by email, because that then gives them a reason. Hey, that's why you want your email address, because we need to tell you if you won. This little kebab menu here, you can click this. So add a description. So that's what you can see here. By default, that won't be there. So when you add an email block, it'll say, what's your email? You can always then add a description. Will be notified by email. And then you can add a description there. That's the subtext. We've added a first name block. What's your first name? Again, I've added the description just to be a bit more friendly. Nice to meet you. I can mark that as required using this toggle. So that means that people have to fill it out. They can't progress without it. And then we've got our multiple choice option here. What's your favorite workout? And I'll just give a description. Please choose one. Swimming, running, yoga, Pilates, weightlifting, cycling. And so if I wanted to add more options to this, I simply just add more option and I can just type it in. You know, you might be interested in rugby, for example, or you know, athletics. So you can just add those as you like. You can also cross them out, reorder them as you like as well. It's really easy. For some examples, you'll notice this other option here. So, you know, you may want to give customers the option to then type in a custom response. So by ticking that, it then provides an other option at the bottom of the list. And if I was to click that, a little box opens up and I can type in what my other example is. You know, it might be CrossFit. And then that is then captured as my response. So it's a good way to just, you know, make the forms a bit more flexible. You know, I don't have to list every single option ever. And then I've added the checkbox at the end for the one last thing, which is the terms and conditions checkbox. If I was to add, you know, if we want to add more to this page, you simply just scroll to the bottom and you can hit add block. And each of these sections is called a block. So I'm adding a block and you'll see this menu open up, and these are all the different question types that you can add to the form. You commonly used will be at the top. You'll probably use about 4 or 5 common things all the time, so they're nice and handy at the top. Although, you know, when you add these to the form, they all kind of look the same, or like to a user, they all look the same. But the reason that we've built, you know, specific sections for first name, last name, you know, checkboxes, phone, etc. Each of these has built-in validation that maps those answers back to that attribute type in the Lexer CDP. So if we use the first name block, then when data is captured into that field, the CDP knows that, okay, that information is a first name and builds that attribute as a first name attribute. So the same for last name as well. But even in the form itself, they'll look the same, you know, but there is validation happening in the background to say, okay, that information is a last name, that information is a first name. And that means that the data that you pull in will be, you know, correct, and everything will be, you know, the data quality will be high. So just keep in mind, like, use the correct block type for each of the questions. So multiple choice, checkboxes, drop-down options, you know, they can add text. We've got different rating options as well, which I'll talk about in the next example. So NPS, really important to have. So give us a score out of 10. That then captures that information as an NPS, and then Lexer will then be able to calculate that using the NPS calculation for you. Rankings, star ratings, dates, numbers. So if you just want to add an actual number, like, for example, how many times do you work out per week? You know, you could just add a number 3. Got options for uploads as well. So, you know, in some examples, you may want to upload an image of a product. Maybe it's a feedback form. It's like upload an image of your product that the stitching has come apart. So you've got the ability to do that. And then also you can upload images yourself into the form for your branding or like creative. So that's the lead gen capture form. I'm going to move on to the next one now, which is a welcome survey. So to start a new form, navigate back to the left, hit create new form, type in the name of the form here. So we'll call this welcome survey for now. And that then creates a new one on the left. You can see that's in draft mode because we haven't then saved or published this one. Speaking of saving, you'll notice in the top right corner here, last save just now. So as you make edits to the form, it'll automatically save for you as you go, which is nice. And then when it comes time, when you're happy with your form, you then click up here, publish, and that then pushes the form live and it gives it the green marking over here. And that's then when it's available to capture responses. So this one's in draft. Okay, we're going to give it a title up here. So this is a welcome survey. So this is like someone's just signed up with your brand, and now we want to know more about them so we can personalize to them and welcome them to the brand properly. So I'm going to give it a title, nice to meet you. Also give this a little subhead, which is tell us a little bit more about yourself and be rewarded with a 15% off your first order. So welcome surveys are great for 2 things. First of all, to capture more information on a customer and make sure that we're personalized to them from day one, put them in the right segments, make sure it's super relevant. but also gives us an opportunity to then reward these people by providing this information with a discount or a code to then drive that first transaction or reduce the time to that first order. So hopefully it's doing both those jobs. We're going to start off with the customer's email. That's required because we need that for the linkage. And then I'm going to add the first block. So for this example, we're going to ask them their birthday. And I'm going to choose the date option. When is your birthday? We've noticed, like best practice, it's better to ask for their birthday rather than their date of birth, because asking for their birthday is it's a bit more fun and people expect a reward on their birthday. Date of birth is a bit more functional and it's like you sound like the DMV and people are less willing to give you that. So when is your birthday? You can choose the date format as well for our American and global friends to make it easy. And then I'm going to add a little description here because sometimes it's good just to let them know, why you're asking for their birthday. So, it could be look out for a little, something on your B-Day, because you might want to give them a little B-Day offer. So that just helps them provide that. I'm going to make that required as well. Let's add the next block. So we're a fitness brand, so we want to start understanding what they want to know more about when we engage with them. So I'm going to choose the checkbox option and we're going to ask them, what do you want to hear more about? So, a lot of brands will have different parts of their business, different customers, different personas. And, some customers are interested in, if you're a fitness brand, they may want to know about fitness tips and tricks or workout ideas. So let's add that as the first option. Maybe they might want to know about like product features. So like your innovation or the technology behind your products. They may be interested in maybe like sales and promos. You might have events, athletes, you may have sponsored athletes that you're interested in. And I've chosen checkboxes here because they could come down and tick multiple of these. So that just allows you to understand more about this customer, provide personalized service to them on day one. Let's add another block quickly. An example might be, how did you hear about us? A lot of brands are interested in that. And then you can add the examples here, Google, TikTok, Instagram. We can also choose other here, so they may have heard about it another way. So then that gives them the option to add in an option or response that's not listed. And then also, once you've added your blocks here, you can then, in the page list here, you can easily reorder them if you like. So it's like, actually, I want to ask this question first. So let's just drag and drop these little panels using the little icons here. So it's a really easy way to just reorder your questions. You also notice that I'm adding all these questions to one page. So what that does is just creates one page that you can then just scroll down and see everything in one view. For some surveys, people like to ask like one question on one page or group the questions by themes, kind of like a type form example. And you can do that just by adding more pages on the right here. So here you can see these multiple blocks are added under the first page. If I just hit the plus, I can then add an additional page here and then drag the blocks down into that second page. So maybe that then gives us the first page is about the person, nice to meet you, give us your email, your name and your birthday. The second page is more about like, okay, let's learn more about how did you engage with us? What do you want to know more about? Stuff like that. So it allows you to break it up and just make it a bit more easy to navigate. And you'll notice here the pagination bars along the bottom, you can see that you're on page 1 of 2. So that gives a good indication to users about how long the survey is and how far they are through it. And they'll just add more blocks or add more little indicators as you add more pages. So this is coming together nicely. You can hit the design tab to sort of preview it as you go. From here, you can quickly just change the fonts. So there's hundreds of fonts in here. They're all the web-safe fonts. There'll be something that makes your brand for sure in here. So you quickly just Roboto, choose that. You can center align the text really easily. Changing the colors here, so the titles, that's the headlines. So we can make those red. The descriptions, we may want to make black. The button text, so that's the text within these buttons. It's going to keep that white for now. The brand color, so this is your brand color. This will change the colors of the buttons and also the little like check boxes and things like that. So you can make that red. You can choose specific hexes and RGBs as well. And then the background color. So by default, it's just nice soft gray. You can make that darker or a color. Or you could even then choose a background image. So this is where you could upload in, a bit of branding for your image. Like I did in that first example, I had the fitness background. You can upload images quite easily to there. Also, for more advanced users, you can use custom CSS here as well. So you can apply that and make the forms look however you like. And that could be like really, really funky as well. That's the welcome survey. One thing you also notice is back on the build section, the thank you page. So by default, there's a thank you page, which is, thanks for filling out our form. Thanks for taking the time. So you can then customize the thank you page. For this example, we spoke about the 15% off incentive up front. So this is where you could put then the code for the thank you reward. So use our promo code thanks15 to receive 15% off your next order, and that's what they'll see at the end of the form. Again, I can preview the form up here. Looking good. The birthday, you've got a nice date picker here. If you're then happy with this form, you can then publish it. So once you publish it, you then get the form sharing link. One thing you notice is with the preview option, when you preview a form, so any responses you put into this right here, these are not then pulled into the CDP. So you can simply just, it's demo mode, preview mode. You'll notice at the top when it's in preview mode, so it'll be called out at the top here. So don't worry about these responses; they're not pulled into your hub, but it gives you a nice way to select things, but try before you buy. But then when you go back into the actual live form, if I go to share and then view that one, this will be the live version. So any responses I put into this, because notice the preview bars are not up there, these are then pulled into your CDP and enrich the customer profiles. So this link is then what you would send, to your email platform or to your, that's what you would embed into an iframe or anything like that. So the form can be then used. Any questions on that example? I can move on to the next post-purchase survey as well over here. So another good example is post-purchase survey. Like Heather said, these are all listed in our best practice guides and must-have forms guides. So post-purchase survey, we find customers have a lot of success with these. They can be triggered to be sent, 7 days after order date. Because the beauty of the Lexer Form Builder, it's linked up to all your transaction data as well. So your e-commerce or your point of sale. So we know we have order dates for each customer. So if my order date was today, then we can set up an automated trigger to say send post-purchase survey to any orders 7 days after order. So that then is a kind of a set and forget, and it's always on. And that allows you to start capturing feedback and insight and additional enrichment on all purchases, 7 days. So that's a really good one to set up on day one. So again, we're going to post-purchase survey. We're going to give it a title. So it might be something like, tell us about your recent experience. Thanks for shopping with us. We'd love to hear more about your experience with us. So now we have to have an email address here as the linkage. And then we're going to go into the first question, which is NPS. So by selecting that, you get the standard, how likely are you to recommend us, with the 10 options for selecting MPS. And the beauty of this is then, because it's this MPS format, Lexer will then automatically enrich these responses and calculate the MPS for you in the hub. And I can show you an example of that. We've got a lot of apparel retailers. So something like, you can also, MPS is great to ask, but maybe let's ask 1 or 2 other questions as part of this, so we can then start to understand more about each customer and the products they've purchased. So multiple choice for this one, and I'm going to ask them, how is the product fit? And so you can start to add some options here, smaller than expected, true to size. And this can be based on your category or industry, but for this demo, I'm going to say smaller than expected, true to size, and larger than expected. And because obviously we don't have to ask them what they purchased, because we have that information from them already. And then we can start to align in the CDP. Okay, people who bought men's black skinny jeans, well, they're saying that they are fitting smaller than expected. And so we can start to analyze that data and then follow up. We could always follow up with those people and ask them more. But that then gives us some insight into potential returns down the line, or things that we need to address. We can start asking them questions around I've selected multi-choice again. What matters most when making a purchase? So then we can start to understand, okay, are they price sensitive? Are they interested in additional colors? Is it about style for them? Maybe fit is really important, or we could even choose other here. So that starts to give us some ideas about motivations. And then again, because it's multiple choice, someone can come in here and click multiple of these, or you can choose the drop down option, which will then allow them to only choose one option. So that might give you some more specific results. The next option I'm going to choose is an example of how we can start to use conditional logic. So what that means is, if you've got a question something like, would you shop with us again? And the options are yes or no. Then if they click yes, great. Let's move on to the next question. If they click no, we want to know why. So I'm going to add that option, but then I added an additional block, and we could make this a text box. And what you do is add the block first, and then you can say, if no, please tell us why. And then let's make these required. And now we can use the conditional logic option, and we add a rule. And the way this works is you have to add both options first, and then come in here, and then you link both those questions together. So I'm going to add a rule, and then you choose the first question, which is, would you shop with us again? And then they say, so they selected if you shop with us again, and then you say is no. So that means if they selected that question and they answered no, then we want to show this text block if they answer no. And then so let's see that in action in the design tab. The beauty of design is because it saves as it goes. You can use this as kind of your preview mode. So if I come down here, what matters most when you're making a purchase? Would you shop with us again? If I hit yes, then you can just click submit and keep going. If I hit no, then if no, please tell us why. So that's a really good option to then learn more about customers without, busying up the form with things that aren't relevant for everybody. And so you could, in theory, you could add conditional logic to multiple questions, or, you could skip a whole part of the survey if they hit yes or no, so it makes it super relevant for everybody. Again, then you'd want to change the colors and fonts and logos here. And you would want to then make sure that the thank you page is updated. So in this example, it's a post-purchase survey, so we can just say thank you. You know, we appreciate your feedback. Hope to see you again soon. And then that's done. You could add additional blocks to the thank you page as well. You could even add, you know, you could add imagery if you wanted to, like your, you know, banner creative, if it's promoting a new campaign. But that's kind of how easy it is to build the forms in the form builder. There's 3 good examples. You can always just come back here and edit these forms as many times as you like. It's really easy to do. You can then archive forms if they're no longer needed, or even delete them. But archiving is probably a good first step. One thing I'll show you next is, okay, so once you've actually built the form and sent it out into the wild and then people are using it, the way to then see the responses in Lexer is like this. So I'm going to grab the original Fitness Co competition here, and you'll notice in the URL there's an ID in the middle of the URL, and we've got steps to do this in the Learn article. But what you want to do is copy that middle ID, because that's the ID to this specific form. Each form has its own ID. You can go back into your Lexer hub, navigate to understand and the segment builder. So most of you will be familiar with this. And in the attribute list, you want to search for survey. And there's an option called submitted survey. And in this is where you then paste that ID. And that then pulls in anybody who has submitted that survey, that unique survey in the past. And so this is the Fitness Co example that I showed. 6 people have submitted it, and we have 24 attributes on these people. So that's then you would save this as a new segment and call this, you know, fitness lead gen survey responses, which I've already done in here. So if I go to the survey section, here it is, lead gen fitness comp entries. So that will automatically then pull in anybody who's submitted that survey, and then you can analyze their feedback and see everything we have on those people. So if I click profiles, we've got 6 people here. I'm going to click Kyle's example here. So here's Kyle. We've got his first name, his email address. You can see that he's agreed to the terms and conditions, which is great. It's mandatory. His favorite workout was swimming, and then other information we have on Kyle. This will then automatically put Kyle into a bunch of segments based on, you know, his responses. So he's selected swimming. So then we can start adding him to our swimming persona in our workout section. And that means that when we add Kyle to our you know, welcome journey, we can then personalize him with the swimming creative. The same things for all these other people as well. So what was your favorite workout? We've got 6 people here, and 50% of them have answered swimming. We've got 1 for cycling, 1 for Pilates, and 1 for yoga. Because this is a demo account, it's a little bit tricky to show the enrichment with the other profiles. Heather, I don't know if it was a good thought on how to do that. I thought Kyle's had that, but it doesn't.
I'm trying to think if there's another one. Yeah.
Because obviously this is the survey information we've pulled in from the survey, but where it gets really interesting is then is comparing that information with the information we already have on them from Shopify, Klaviyo, Attentive, MailChimp, Yotpo, etc. So it's like, what else do we know about them? And then you can start to then cross-reference, you know, okay, people who say their favorite workout is swimming, if we compare that to like lifetime value or average order value, or like, you know, any other attributes we have, or like preferred gender, for example, then you start to understand relationships between these things where you might not have had that insight before. This won't have it because it's a demo account, unfortunately. But here you can start to see, you know, how was the fit? And then so people who are saying the fit was perfect or tighter than expected, then you can cross-reference that in the comparison tab against last product purchased. Fortunately, this won't work in the demo for now, but I'll show you this. I'll send an example of this after the call so everyone can see it in real life. But last order product name versus how was the fit, and that would then give you an idea of, okay, people who purchased jeans last or dresses last, they're saying the fit was good, the fit was loose, the fit was too big. And then you can start to understand the context of these responses. And you can do that for anything captured from the forms. Just think, is there any other hubs, Heather, we might be able to demo that in?
My other question would just be if you were using one of the different forms that maybe is linked to a customer versus the lead gen, could that?
Yes, so you are right. If you do a lead gen example, then all we'll know about that person at that stage is from the form because they're brand new to the brand. But if you're doing a customer survey or a post-purchase survey, then yes, we would have previous transaction history and like orders, average lifetime value, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's the way our demo is built, doesn't have that right today, but it does have it, and I'll be able to demo it later, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we can follow up with folks to show a more detailed example.
Yeah. An example might be, so the workout question. So favorite workout. So now if I hit search on that, we can see everyone's who's answered the favorite workout thing. But now we can start to say, okay, people who actually, give me people who's answered swimming, or people who answered cycling, or people who answered Pilates. So swimming, for example, hit search. There's 3 people. We save that as a new segment, and that will be our swimmer persona. We'll put that in our personas section, and it's anyone who answered, swimming from welcome survey, for example. And then if you save that, then as people come into your database, they're automatically added to the swimming persona. And then you can sort of grab them at any one time and, personalize to them as needed. Swimmers. You could then also add, to this segment. It might just not be people whose favorite workout is swimming. It might also be people who purchased, swimming stuff. So it might be people who is the product name. I don't know if we have any swimming example in the demo hub, but let's go. No. But you could also add people who purchased swimming items, browse swimming pages, answered swimming. So you can then build out multiple layers that informs the swimming persona, from informed, provided data, inferred data, captured data, and multiple. So then that's multiple inputs feeding a persona, and you could do that for all your personas. And so just layering these attributes on top of each other within a segment and having multiple things populate a segment is really helpful. So that's an example of how you could do it for a persona style. Okay, so that's a lot of me talking. Heather, is there any questions from the team? Can you see?
Yeah, we do have some questions. So one is kind of a natural one, I think, for our folks that have been using forms so far. So, if our clients have used forms in the past, will those continue to work?
Yeah, good question. So those who've used Lexer forms previously, those forms will continue to work as is. So you can continue to use those to capture responses. There is a plan to migrate those older forms into the form builder, but for now they will continue to work and capture responses. I think migrating to the new form builder will maybe be a catalyst to review those forms, with a new light, maybe with new insights, and also apply some more best practice to them. But for now, they'll continue to work, and we'll support those.
Okay, great. And then here is a question from someone super excited. Is there a limit to the number of forms that we can create?
No, so you can create as many forms as you like. So this list can be as long as you like on the left. You can use them as much as you like. Also, you can have as many people using forms as well. So there's no limit, there's no seats limit to forms. There is a consideration around the number of submissions you capture, and I'll touch on that quickly after this. If there's any more questions, I can go into the implementation part of the demo.
Yeah, why don't we jump into implementation?
Okay. So like I said, to launch forms, you go into manage and forms, and you can see it all here. To get forms turned on or access turned on in your hub, please reach out to the support team or reach out to your success manager, and we can turn on forms in your hub. There is a consideration around implementation. So in terms of access and inclusions, there's a fee to access the Form Builder license, but that fee is only $500 per quarter. And what that allows us to do is then turn on access to forms in your hub. That grants you access, grants you the ability to create as many forms as you like and capture as many submissions as you like. Also, as many people or users can use forms as you like as well. So there's no seat cap. Within that $500 per quarter, so 3 months, it includes 1,000 free submissions. So when we talk about a submission, that's a customer or prospect submitting a form and hitting that submit button, and that data being then pulled back into the Lexer CDP and enriched. So every quarter you get 1,000 free submissions as part of your $500. And what that covers is, the data enrichment, all the attributes that are built off the back of forms, the built-in validation and the logic, and all the design features I show you today are all available for all users. There's no limits. And also access to our best practice guides and playbooks and support and everything like that. So there is a rate card, which you can see here on the right. So you can see the first 1,000 submissions are free, included in your fee. And then there's a sort of a rate card that decreases based on the volume. So the more volume you have coming through, the less each submission costs. And it's very sort of competitive or comparable to other form building tools, but what you also get as part of this is all the enrichment and the validation and segmentation and the ability to send forms to specific segments. So included in this cost is all that stuff as well. What we will add as part of the tool as well is the summary tab. So this will be live in the tool as of next week. And it'll be an additional tab in the UI I just showed you here. And what this will do is track the number of form submissions you have over time. And you'll also be able to see that broken down by each form as well. So you'll be able to see in real time the number of submissions you have. So you'll be able to see where you're tracking. And you'll be able to see which forms are doing, the lifting to collect those submissions. So that'll be a feature that's available for everyone as of next week. Also within this view, you have the ability to export responses via CSV as well if you need to. So that'll be available within this view as well. So that'll just be turned on as of next week for everybody. And that will give you visibility. That's the implementation. Like I said, it's available within Manage Forms. Please reach out to support or success manager if you've got more questions, but we can start turning on the forms, from today. So the billing is quarterly, but you can choose to turn on forms whenever you like. So it could be today, tomorrow, next week, next month. It's very flexible in that regard. It's a new product for us. We'll continue to build out more features here as well. So we have a quick roadmap slide here. I mentioned the summary tab and CSV exports happening next week. What we're working on next is integrating forms into all our other products as well. So those who use our customer service tool will be familiar with forms as part of that. So we'll make sure the form builder forms are compatible with respond and serve. There's a weird typo going on there, but that should say serve. And then the ability to link forms to individual specific customer profiles. So you don't have to actually add the email address up front. So that will remove that question and make sure that every form is unique to a customer and it's automatically linked to that person. So we know that when Heather fills out that form, it enriches Heather's profile. There's no need for any identifiers. So that's an ability we're adding in the near future as well. And then as we continue to grow Form Builder, we'll be, we're keen to hear your feedback, your use cases, and additional features we want to add. So we'll continue to build out forms in the future as well. And then lastly, Heather mentioned the resources. So here's a link to all the stuff we've got. We've got a landing page which goes through everything that I mentioned today. We've got several blog posts that talk about zero-party data, must-have forms, best practice, learn articles. We've got a previous webinar that Heather and the success team ran on zero-party data. So that's a good resource. And we have a really basic pricing calculator as well that helps you maybe calculate, based on that rate card that we mentioned. So if you've got like 10,000 submissions a quarter, you can see roughly what that might be and budget accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you. Thanks for joining. It's really exciting to take you through it. We're excited to get in your hands and start using it. This recording will be shared with everybody after today as well. Any questions, please reach out to myself or Heather or the team. We're happy to help. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you soon.
Bye.